That day, June 17th, 2000, is fairly clear in my head. I distinctly remember walking from the place I was working at the time towards Market after work. Up until that point, over however long before that, I had been sort of thinking about bathroom wall graffiti and how that might translate itself into a book, and how to allow people to contribute to that book. It's absolutely fascinating to see what people will write on bathroom walls when no one's watching, when it's completely anonymous. And I started photographing it. And I was thinking, well, wouldn't it be great if people could actually write in the book, add their opinions on top of the photographs? And then it was, well, why do you need the photographs in the first place? What if I just remove the photographs entirely? I remember standing there and being like, oh my God, that's it. It has to be this. And it was the idea that these books have to travel, they have to be blank, they have to be sent around, and that there have to be a lot of them. I remember in my initial thinking, it was like, it's got to be like 50 or 100, and then it was like, duh, it has to be 1,000. That's it. There's no question about it. This was sort of the first time in my life where I had an idea, and I had to do it. It was like there was no choice. It was like, I have to do this. If I don't do this, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Say my goodbyes to every single journal, and each one was sort of therapeutic, but also, a little bit tough. It's like you spend so much time working on these things, and then you just send them off and you have no idea what's going to happen. Try doing 1,000 of anything. If you look at the process of getting the journals and putting the covers on and stamping them and putting it in an envelope, addressing the envelope, finally dropping it off at the post office, that's my last contact with that journal until somebody says, hey, I've got number 422. It took approximately 2 years to get all of the journals out and distributed. Part of this was because I couldn't really afford to go buy 1,000 journals at once. It helped having a paycheck from work coming in to, ease myself into it. The internet, I think, has allowed the project to get to a wider audience. What happened with the website is people started linking to it. Hey, have you heard about this project? Or check this thing out. And so I wanted to have people be able to sign up online for them. And there were literally thousands of people trying to get journals. If you find a journal somewhere, you are very, very lucky. Take this journal and add something to it. Stories, photographs, drawings, opinions. Anything goes. Visit the website and tell everyone where you found it. If possible, scan what you added and send it to us. If the journal is full, email us and we'll arrange for its return. Contents will be shared with the world. If the journal isn't full, go to the site and connect with someone who wants it, or give it to a friend or a stranger. I sort of gotten an email, hey, this thing's done, it's ready to go. And, there's a certain amount of excitement. It's like, oh my God, there's a journal complete and it's ready to be sent back to me. Then it was one of those things where it's like, did it come in the mail today? Nope. Did it come in the mail today? Nope. So when I actually saw the package there, and I was like, it dawned on me what it was. It was like, oh my God, it's a complete journal. So I remember running upstairs and just kind of like getting all comfortable and sitting down. And I think the first thing I did was flip through every single page and sort of just scan it, see what's there. Then it was go back and read every single thing that was written, every little detail, every little scribble, to see what was in the journal.
When I heard about the project and that the goal is to get it filled and get it returned, I wanted to do that. I wanted to be the person that fulfilled that for him. So I wanted to make sure that I gave him back his first journal. I just really wanted to make sure he got at least one back, and I wanted it to be me that gave it to him. So I kept an eye on it. I would pass it in this direction, pass it in that direction, and I just tried to get everybody to do something in it. Everybody I came across. Like, hey, what are you doing here? Here's a pen. Write something in it. Since I kept such a close eye on this book, I think this person really wanted to see somebody take it away from me because she thought the spirit of the project was a little different than how I was pursuing it. Some guy, not some guy, but some other guy, emailed me because he had journal number 728 or something like that. And he emailed me and he said, hey, I'm 2 towns over and I have a journal. Do you want to meet and write in each other's journals? And we went to a bar and sat down and had a couple of beers and traded off journals. And somebody was getting really angry at us because they wanted the table. So they passed us this napkin. It says, some people would like to eat, to try to get rid of us. And I wrote, and some of us want to drink and do art. This is beautiful with the bikini with Bush's face and the chick's crotch. Look, how to shoot a rubber band. Surgical lubricant, and there's a quarter in here. See, if you're broke, you could be all set with that.
What amazed me was if you looked on the website, it looked like, maybe 5 people had touched this journal. And when I looked through it, I started making notes. I'm like, my God, this thing has been to Ireland. It's been to Brazil. I counted 13 states in the United States. And none of that was apparent from the website, but it was happening in the journals. Some of it's artwork, some of it's journal writing, some of it's, just random stuff where people pasted in photographs, things like that versus the reactions to 9/11. But to see it all enclosed in one single journal and realize that, yeah, this journal actually travels from person to person to person. And all of these people in this journal are connected now. That moment of understanding of having one of the journals in my hands and of realizing that they can return. They can make the journey back to me at some point, and they are full of this, oh my God, this amazing stuff. It's very exciting to see, and it makes me wonder, why did this one come back but none of the others? And what's so different? What happened to them? This one went on road trips. It traveled to Brazil. What happened to these other journals? Where are their adventures? And whose lives did those journals touch?
We had decided to leave San Francisco and to move to Toronto, but first we were going to take a big trip. Brought the journals the whole way with me, didn't write a word in them. And it was sort of like they were trying to escape. Like, they felt they were empty, and they felt like they needed stuff in them, and they needed me to give them to somebody.
I was on a bus on my way from Milan Malpensa airport into Milano, and I was talking with someone about where I was from, which was San Francisco at the time, and where I was going, which was Croatia.
And I thought, well, okay, this is the kind of guy who would do this.
He sort of introduced me to the journal project by describing a hypothetical situation. What would you think about a project such as this? And then shortly afterwards showed me the journal and gave it to me and said, I would like the journal to go with you to Croatia. I entered my impressions of Croatian people, Croatian culture, the transition that was occurring from communism to capitalism. And honestly, many of these impressions were negative. I became introduced to, among other things, extreme Croatian nationalism, and also saw the effects of war firsthand, looking up at these buildings that were full of shell holes. After having it for quite some time, I received an email from a Croat named Dampas, who wondered if I could somehow get this journal to him.
And he said that he will leave the journal in one bar. I think that came to the bar 2 weeks after he left, and the journal is waiting there for me, and that was really fun to have the journal in that way. That was travel all the way to America and to Italy, and then in Zagreb, and some guy that I didn't even meet him leave it to me. The journal was with me, I think, for some half a year or a year. It was going to all activity that I would have, so with my scouts and to all trips. And everybody is writing to it.
Ej, moja mama isto će se priključiti to. Može moja baka kad smo kod toga.
It passed many hands until I passed it away.
Dampas wrote that the journal has left my possession and its voyage is unknown. We never saw anything. There's been nothing else uploaded to the site. It's very sad. I do feel responsible. I mean, I guess everybody who gets one of these journals has a responsibility. So I'd like to see the scans. I'd like to see the journal. I'd like to have it back. I'd like to add more to it.
Deux secondes. Agnès, tu l'as envoyé en PDF ou en Illustrator? Ouais, c'est un PDF. Voilà, je vais vous la passer.
Allô?
Ah, je vais pas l'ouvrir.
Oui.
Maybe it was due to the nature of internet at this moment. Creating connection between countries, people. That's what I wanted to do at this moment. I wanted to virtually meet people from all the countries. It's not so easy to travel. It's expensive. I've waited a long time before I can have the journal. But it was also strange because I was the first one to have it in my hands and have to initiate something. It's a sort of responsibility, you know. You have to begin something for other people after to react maybe with that. It's the fear of the white page. It's what will I do? Some people can stress a lot and never do nothing. Probably because of this feeling of having to do something and maybe feeling like it's too important. It's more important to do something personal than to do something important. That's what I think now. Maybe at the time when you have the book in the hands and the white page, it's not so easy to have this, how do you say, recul. I know that some people were waiting for it, so maybe I wanted to just pass it in a fast way. I have people with which I am still in contact from this year, 2000 and 2001. It was nice.
As long as I'm not going to take your picture and paste it on a page and call it mine, I can deconstruct what you did. I can cut your paper in half, I can cut it in quarters, I can make folds in it, I can alter it and take it and add something from someone else's piece and alter it and take it and make it mine. When the journals first started to come out, it was the buzz. Everybody was talking about them. Everybody wanted them. You couldn't sign up for them fast enough. When you got them, there was this everybody wanted them factor. And you signed up on the list, and you knew that the 30 guys below you on the list online wanted that book, and they were asking you about it. I was getting emails from people, have you got the book yet? Did you send it? You know, so you had this obligation factor. Then there was the factor that some guys said you should share them with your friends. And of course, you know, you had to show them off. You got the book and you wanted your friends to participate. But I would always be nervous when I get it back because other people are depending on me to get this book to them. And in a way in the background, you're thinking, well, some guy's kind of depending on us to somehow finish these and get them back to him, you know. So you got a little selective on who you handed him to. I was very apprehensive every single time I gave one up. Even today, after I have the new one that I got back, number 610. I'm hesitant to, I don't know what to do with it. I'm stressing over it already. Should I keep it and fill the entire thing myself and send it to some guy? Will I have the impact for him that he's looking for? Just my input? I'm not sure that's what his intention was. I think his intention was to get inputs of a lot of people. So then in that case, I might want to share the book and pass it to someone else, which is hard to do, especially after you spent time putting your soul onto the pages that you've worked on. Sometimes it's difficult to let it go.
The idea of being a distributor is something that's always been sort of dear to me in a way. I love the character of Johnny Appleseed, so it kind of played on that. I get them, I plant seeds, and I walk away from it. It's beautiful, simple. You're walking around high traffic areas and dropping it off and very nonchalantly, and then just going about your business. You know, one into a coffee shop. It's funny when you think that you're being watched and you're very nervous and you're very self-conscious about how easy it is to slip something like that down and not have anybody notice. That was kind of fun. It was very cloak and dagger. And then the Griffith Park one, I mean, by the time I got up to Dante's Peak, there was absolutely nobody there, so just drop it and walk away.
There was an article about Thousand Journals Project. And I read it, I was pretty intrigued. And from there, I went to their website and thought, that's a pretty cool project. A few months go by, and I'm at a meeting, and somebody mentioned Thousand Journal Project, which caught my attention immediately. Go, do you know anything about it? She goes, know anything about it? She goes, I've got one of the books. I was shocked, surprised, elated. I go, what's the chance of seeing it? She goes, well, as soon as I'm finished with it, you can have it. You could put stuff in it if you want. You could do a page. Lightning struck. There's the journal, something that you've read about. And not only do you see it, but now it's been handed to you to make your mark in it. That's pretty special.
I'm actually trying to track down a Claire that, remember my brother Andy, the one that died? And he met her or knew her or something. Any idea how I can track her down? Who's still in contact with her? Who is she friends with?
Andy was a wandering spirit, just travelled so many places. But his thing was, his journals, and he wrote them all the time. And I haven't read them yet. I'm not quite game enough. Apparently they're a bit harrowing, very raw emotional stuff. But we all knew that he loved his journals. So when I had the journals from the Thousand Journal Project, I knew I had to give him a couple of them because I'd had 10 sent out here to Australia. And I know he'd made his entries and had passed them on, but they've disappeared, unfortunately. And it's a shame that they've gone, because I'd really like to know what was written in them.
It's just, trying to track down a journal that I gave my brother 5 years ago that he then handed on to Claire. Yeah, I know. Thank you. All right, see ya.
They were some of the last journal entries he ever did, because it was probably about a month at most before he died that he had those journals. It's a search for journals 114 and 194, contributed by a fellow named Andy, also known as Barefoot. Tragically, he was involved in a motorcycle accident and died on Monday, March 5th, 2001. The whole thing with Andy is that it's made everyone explore their feelings a lot more, and just share a little bit more. Particularly for my dad, I've seen him change and soften a lot. Because I think the thing about Andy was I would say he was everyone's favourite in the family. He was just, yeah, he was a great guy. I really miss him. Well, if he hadn't have died, there'd just be these entries and they'd be not such a significant thing. And now, they're like, these are really important to me, and to find them and to read what he wrote, I still don't really know where his head was at, and part of me just goes, I will know what he was thinking then, because he did pour out so much in journals and they really were such personal things for him. So to find them it sort of almost closes his life off for me.
In 2000, a group of people were working together at an improv theater in Hamilton. One of the members in the group found out about the 1,000 journals, I don't know how, and apparently she waited a long time for the journal, for her journal to show up. You got it second. I think you gave it to me.
Right.
And I gave it to Robin, and then
right.
somehow it got to Laura, it got to Peter. It went through a whole bunch of places until Laura got it back again.
Yeah. Right, because she added some stuff, because that was just after 9/11.
Right.
And then I wrote some more in it, and then you got it back to take it to Guelph.
No.
No. I remember the Guelph incident in question. Two interesting girls who live in Guelph. Fine. So I think I said, come on down to the Improv, meet the people I hang out with, and we're absolutely unhappy with everything that was going on when we were at the restaurant. It's like, they were going, we don't have any money, and everyone was like, no, don't worry, share, relax.
There was a group of maybe 10 or 12 people, and we're all sitting around in this restaurant, and I took out or maybe Laura took out the journal to give back to me at this point. And the strangers said, what is it? Can we see it? And they started looking at it, and they just loved it, and can we write in it? And so in the spirit of 1,000 journals, I thought, it would seem to be the right thing to do to let them have it. And after that, we never saw it again. It's definitely my fault. Just because Robin invited these people to join us and they weren't community spirited, doesn't make it his fault. I handed it to them and said, yeah, I guess so.
It takes one person to be not malicious, just careless, tired, a momentary lapse in judgment. We've all had those, and the chain breaks.
Not everybody understands or feels like sharing. Maybe they didn't. They just forgot about it and threw it in a corner. Or maybe they looked at it and said, this is so great, I'm going to keep it. We don't know. Maybe their house burned down the next day.
Sometimes people can be crappy just because people are crappy.
We
don't know.
No, but that's
true. Maybe they did pass it on.
Maybe they
and it got stopped somewhere else in its progression.
I'm amazed that even one made it back.
I can just pick any book, one of those black books, and call it Journal 625 and send it out into the world again. What's stopping me from doing that? Well, it crossed my mind.
.278 was a journal that did bring a sense of community to what was mostly a virtual group of webloggers. We had this idea of trying to interconnect each other through physical objects, just to see how people, even just their handwriting or the types of drawings they would do or the collages they would do.
Maybe Mitsu or somebody else sent an email to all of us saying there's a book. It was kind of odd. I remember feeling first, what an old-fashioned idea. There's like real books going around, We don't need that anymore. It's interesting to imagine that a book would bring fresh wind into this. We're craving the physical world.
I guess to some extent, the idea that there were 1,000 journals made us think, well, it actually made us feel more free with what we were doing, because we're not making the journal or something, we're just making a journal, which was almost more a project for each other. It was really an inspiring time, you know, at the beginning of us feeling like we were finding each other. And, you know, this reminds me of that too, just the sense of promise that we had at the time.
Hi, it's me. It's a quick call. Do you know the pictures we took? Can I print one of them and add to this journal? No, the close-up one, with the mouths, yeah, with the lips. Yeah, me too. It's our favorite. So, okay, good. Bye. I'll call you later. Yes.
My life from that point on, as symbolized by the journal, it does remind me of the seeds of things that are still current for me. And it's a connection to that. And the other people, I think, would probably agree with me that they all had, you know, quite a bit of, I mean, some people got married, some people, you know, started businesses together and did all sorts of interesting things together as a result of sort of the initial kind of connections that we had at that time.
When you open a package that has been irradiated because it might have anthrax, it's a very weird feeling. I grew up in a town where you left your doors open, everybody knew everybody, and now everybody's afraid of everybody. Since 9/11, there's so much caution and so much fear in this world that you actually are losing a quality of life to live this way where everything has to be worried about or thought about, or you can't pick up a journal that somebody left, or you can't open your own mail. I heard from the website that I would be receiving a journal and it would be coming in the next 5 days, but the thing never came. And finally, after between a year and 15 months, I'd say, that found the journal in my box one day with a note that, here's your mail, it has been irradiated because it might have anthrax in it, and it's been delayed. So when it came, it was wrapped about 100 times, like layers of this plastic wrap. It never bothered me to open up an irradiated package, but I did wonder, like 2 or 3 more months, if you had a weird headache or something, you'd be thinking, oh, could it be? Since 9/11, I would think we should send out more journals, not less. I realize that maybe people are more afraid. I wouldn't necessarily pick it up on a park bench. I know that there was a suggestion, leave a journal on a bench. I don't think I would go up and pick up something for fear I'd be arrested or it was a setup or something like that. But there's more of a need than ever for projects like 1,000 Journals to create understanding between people.
If somebody asked me what religion I was, I wouldn't say I go to a Presbyterian church. I would say I'm a Christian. We're labelled as conservative and evangelicals and whatever else, which is fine with me. I don't mind those labels. But if people are going to say they're going to be tolerant, they have to accept that that's what I believe and that I'm going to practice that as best I can. Oh yeah, that looks very familiar. I guess because I try to live what I believe, it's a lot more personal to me than somebody just changing something that I drew in there. So it was a little bit of a surprise to see the changes that had been made. But of course, when I put those things in there, I fully expected that something would happen to them. I wasn't naive enough to think that they would pass through the whole process without anyone touching them.
Yeah, it is, because it's for their arm. It's actually getting real life stitches. Oh.
Oh no, we can still wait.
I actually went through the journal and I put a lot of stuff over it to make the previous pages more exciting. This page wasn't actually there. I got spray paint and I actually went over the whole thing. And that's actually throughout the whole thing. I wanted to actually put in a bit more interesting sort of textures and colours, especially colours, because I'm all about colour. And there wasn't really much before me and Andrew got our hands onto it and put more into it.
This I did. This is my my thing about my favourite painting, which is Rene Magritte's painting.
This is another page that I remember, and it was just a woman or a guest talking about that particular painting, but I decided just to put a bird over his face.
This is from something that was on at my church, but somebody's added a grenade over the top, so maybe they didn't agree with what was on here. Likewise here. Maybe this is like the people thinking about the link between Christianity and war, which is very distressing to me.
I don't know who wrote Bush Kills, Jesus Saves, but I reckon that Andrew put the bombs on front of that page. But I don't know, pretty full on.
Oh, this is that page.
Yeah.
People are talking about.
But whoever wrote that also...
Same texter.
Yeah, same texter, but it's also into Jesus as well.
If I provoke someone to respond to my entry because of what I did, that's fine. I'd rather provoke them in that way than not make the entry at all in the first place. Oh, this is something that Kylie did. I recognise that writing. One of the other pages was a poem by Robert Frost, which my wife wrote in there, something that she quite likes and studied at school originally, and something that we refer to occasionally amongst ourselves. When that was the only thing that she put in there, and somebody pasted over the top of it so you couldn't even read it or know that it was there, I thought that was interesting that somebody chose to do that. Now, with the 1000 journals, I can understand that you leave yourself open to changes, but I'm not sure I see the point in actually deleting somebody's entry totally.
I would have been quite upset to actually see that again with my work gone. Gosh. This is the page with
So, and what was it, a poem?
It was a poem just written.
You could turn that. Oh, no,
You can read it in the back.
And someone stuck bread?
Someone just stuck a photocopy of bread over it, and then...
He got it back.
And added onto it.
Yeah, fully.
Oh, there's another one.
Somebody handed me a book and it had hole drills into it and a ribbon tied through it. It was really annoying to try and contribute in it with all, the holes in the, it was just, we ended up taking it out by the time I got it. The journal was bouncing back and forth between a small group of people that were kind of in a tug of war for it. I would have liked to have that journal for maybe 6 months or something like that. I would have kept it had I not bent to anybody else's desire to keep it in motion. That seemed to be the thing. It was more like a hot potato. The last person that I gave it to, it totally went out of his mind. So, who knows, maybe he had a small crisis, but I think that journal, the last place I can see it is in a closet. That's where it stops. This person, some guy, is really experiencing the idea that what you make isn't yours. As much as you try to exert control over it, it's kind of once it leaves your hands, you've set it free and you've done your nurturing, you've done your job. The easiest way to describe it is by talking about a parental-child relationship. I mean, there's a time of creation, and then there's the time of nurture, and then there's, times of challenge, and there's all these different growing stages that are supposed to lead to independence and kind of freedom for this thing to exist outside of you.
If there's things that are in my present life right now that I need to untie, journaling helps me untie and find the threads that make the weaving of my life. There have been times when I journal where I'm specifically writing to my mother or specifically writing to the man who hurt me. It's almost a prayer. I do a lot for my husband and his church, a lot for my children, and this was my time to find and create what it was that I was going to be for the rest of my life. And so I decided that this would be a good start. I just typed 1000journals.com and saw the website and signed up. Then there was someone in England, I think, who was on the list. They had released the journal, and he was first, and I think I was second or third. And he took his time with it. It took a while, and then he posted his images. You don't think, I'm going to participate in this and get wounded. I'm going to participate in this, and someone is going to put in time to hurt me. You don't think that that's actually going to be something that somebody's going to do. So you're so ill-prepared to be a target.
I thought of a lot of things that I could actually say in the journal. I just looked at the list of people who were waiting, and I just started thinking about each one from the little information that I had, maybe their email address, their name, or where they live. And then I just went off and started writing a few ideas down of what they could actually be doing. They were kind of like surreal ideas, they weren't based on real life. One of the people in line lived in Arcadia, and I thought, what if Arcadia was inside an arcade machine? So I kind of created this apartment which was off the street that the Double Dragon game was based. And it just happened that it led into that direction that day. On another day, it could have been a completely different piece of artwork. Shannon from Spring Valley. I was thinking spring and then thought spring a leak. I found this thing on the internet. It was like a bladder diary, but I kind of like filled it in as if she'd filled it in. There was one person on the list from New York called Wendy, and I just did an American flag. And one of the white stripes had the message, I would like to wish Wendy and all the people of New York a safe and peaceful future.
After the attack on the World Trade Center, I was really traumatized. I couldn't get the images out of my head, the smells, the sounds. I lived right across the street from where it happened and saw a lot of things that I'll never forget. I didn't think that I would live through it. So the first thing I did when I was in a safe place was sit down and just unload everything that happened on paper. And it turned out to be really therapeutic because I visited that terrifying moment or moments, and then I was done with it. Closed the book, and that's it. Nick dedicated a page to me, which was really thoughtful and made me feel really good. I felt like the world was less scary, a smaller place, and felt connected. He did some dedications for some other people, dedicated some other pages that I later found out was hurtful. But as an artist, I didn't take offense to his work because art can provoke.
No one that he tributed had nearly the horrible images that he gifted to me. Distorted, horribly grotesque images of women that he has turned into animals, and their breasts and stomachs and fat, and oh, it's just everything I loathe about myself. One of the things that happens when you have been abused sexually is your own body becomes your betrayer, and the female form is something that I either in the perfect image that the world portrays that this is female is so far away and removed from what I am that I can't be female that way. And this, for me, looks like all of my heritage. We're all large women. We're all, how this man could know, in a way, to wound me in this way. Fat cow was something that I had called myself all my life. I was contacted a couple times after by people looking for the journal, and I would just inform them politely that I was no longer participating and I didn't know what happened to it. I can imagine that the woman in front of me saw these awful images, saw what was written for her, and destroyed the journal.
I must send you off by the end of November. I must send you off by the end of November. I must send this journal on before November. I must send you off before the end of November. I must hand you over to the next person in line before the end of November.
My friend told me love is immortal, art is immortal. Some asked me why I won't want to live forever. Some told me I could be like John Malkovich in being John Malkovich and live on in other shells or clones.
I live in a culture of fear, a society afraid to fail, and the fear of failure fuels our economy, silences our impulsive desires of retaliation. We have too much at stake. I have too much at stake. I am comfortable, hence I suffer in silence.
I live in a culture of fear, a society afraid to fail, and the fear of failure fuels our economy, silences our impulsive desires of retaliation. We have too much at stake. I have too much at stake. I'm comfortable, hence I suffer in silence. Wow, so drama. One of my distant acquaintances died recently at the age of 20. He collapsed and left the world in turmoil and pain. And I tell myself the next one could very well be me. Yeah. I wasn't so much affected by his death, but the fact that it could happen in army, which is, it was quite a publicized event, so I don't think I'll get into trouble for saying it out. Because, yeah, that particular year, there were a lot of people that kind of passed away while serving their army. So it really brought me, it really gave me a sense of mortality at that time. Like, you could really die doing this, you see. I think at that time it was also, because I was in army and I was like stagnant. I was stagnant in the state of my life, you know. It's like, it's prime of my youth, you see, and I'm stuck in serving the nation, you see, when I could be doing so much more outside. So there's a part of me that really felt that I was stuck. Whenever I go to places, especially beautiful places like Sydney or Melbourne, I will imagine myself living there. I would try to imagine myself living there, but I can't imagine once I put myself into that shoes, because I'll always be a second-class citizen. And my family's here, my sister's here, my parents are here, and they're not the sort that will ever move away. And I can't imagine uprooting the family for my sake and transplanting them in another country. I was very glad that a journal finally arrived and it was not like a hoax or something like that. I didn't really thought of it like I was doing this project for someone or audience until I saw like what previous people wrote. I remember there was this entry on the like a protest against the Iraq War or something like that. And it was only then I really told myself that perhaps I should write something from the perspective of being a Singaporean. After reading what other people had written, I really understood like where this is going out to and where it could lead, like give my voice along with 1,000 other journalists. I did set myself a deadline to send it out by a certain date, because I felt it wasn't fair for the next person who was expecting it as much as I was.
When you evacuate, you have a car or two at the most, depending, I guess, on the size of your family and how many people can drive. And you put all your important stuff in there: your insurance papers, your photographs, pets, anything that you can't absolutely live without. I spent more time getting the journal the week before the hurricane hit than packing up my house and my office. And just get that journal. It was going to be okay. I could get everything down I needed to get done, and just a feeling of happiness and peace and being part of it. Be part of this neat community. The woman that had it before me had it for quite some time, and so I emailed her, never heard anything from her. Emailed her again, and then I got a real abrasive email back from her telling me to leave her alone. She's had some hardships of her own, and she'll get the journal when she damn well feels like getting it out there. In one of the emails, I mentioned her brother in Arizona, who was the guy that was supposed to get it before me. So I wrote him, asking him if he had any influence to get her to send it. And he said he'd see what he could do. And then she wrote a really nasty email to me 2 days before the storm hit about getting her brother involved. And it was none of his business. And, well, I had no right to do it. I was overstepping. I was a crybaby and kind of stuff. And so I stepped back and kind of apologized and said, I just want the darn journal. So anyway, we ended up getting it. She ended up actually mailing it. It showed up literally the day that the storm was hitting, that I was closing down my office. It showed up. I threw it in a box and packed everything up, threw it in my truck, and off I went. And then 2 weeks later, I'm starting to unpack the office, put everything back together and everything, and we get hit by the second hurricane. Between the two storms, we were out of power for about 24 days. As the refrigerators went bad, whoever had meat, everybody barbecued it and ate it that night. As the milk was sour, everybody would have milk. And then we started going into the bread line and the ice line, getting ice and bread. And the neighborhood I was living in at the time, I'd lived there for 9 years and knew very few of my neighbors. But by the end of that couple weeks, right after the storm, I knew about everybody, and everybody knew about everybody. Everybody checked on everybody, and there was a whole sense of new community there. Then I sat on it for a year.
I don't know if it's the type of person that was attracted to this project, but they weren't exactly the kind of people you'd trust to, like, run the country. They would sort of hand things off to somebody's cousin who would bring it back 2 weeks later maybe, or they knew some girl named Mary at a party had it last they saw of it. And so a lot of people got really aggravated because they saw this as a very structured project. There's 2 weeks per person and you go on and you do this. I think there were people coming from two very different approaches on that. I guess I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm reliable, but yet I didn't do it in 2 weeks, and, The first person didn't like the cover very much, so he spray painted it pink and put a skull on it, which totally offended the second person, who tried to scrape it off and put wallpaper on it. And the cover became the story in itself. I mean, the artwork inside was wonderful, but every single person did something to that cover to try and fix what the person before had done. My husband died rather suddenly. It was a motorcycle accident. He went over a cliff. So there was no preparation for that. I had the journal, and here I was very much wanting to hold on to it. And I didn't really feel like I could lose anything else at that point. I really didn't want to let go of anything. But letting go of that journal was part of the original bargain. It was part of the deal, just as letting go of another human being when it's their time. And so in the end, I was just able to do that. And I'm glad, I'm glad I let go. I'm glad I didn't try to hold on to it.
I left one up in Unalakleet, Alaska, a little Eskimo village on, the Bering Strait, and I still have no idea where it's at. And I'm in my mind, I fantasize about it being traveling around out there with the polar bear people and things. I love the idea that these journals have a life of their own, and they meet people and they literally change people's lives, because it just opens up their mind to, oh, I can do something different, and look what these people are doing. When I grew up, which wasn't that long ago, but it was like, here's what your life should be. You grow up and you get married and you have a job, and this creativity thing really didn't have a lot to do with it. Even though I think both my parents are very creative, I don't think that it was that whole license thing that they ever had the freedom to say, oh, we can do more than just what we're doing. The journal is left on a plane, and the journal is left on a park bench. I mean, that kind of thing. And who's going to pick it up next? And I think as it grew in popularity, it changed a little bit. They were sought after so much that it was, oh, I can't really leave this here because I got 12 people in line that want this journal. I still like the original version of, this whole idea that those things absolutely have this randomness about them. And I'm sure that because there's so many missing, that's still out there that way.
God. I just listed the things I hate, like bad dreams, suburbs, the employing agency, going to the dentist, small kids who are playing adults, makeup, dancing, talking about superficial things with friends, marriage, the end of childhood, lost pen pals, cleaning up, early mornings, coffee. Happiness lies in your own hands. And she said she doesn't want to talk about it. Of course she's lying to you. Pure open rage, only feeling in the world. I really often go to the other journals too and just look at them. I think they're so beautiful, and I hope some guy will get a lot of them back, more than one so far.
That's why I never sent it back, because everything we did, literally, I would open the book and I'd be like, that's not the contribution that I want to make. Like I'll never see this book ever again, and like I'll never get a chance to do this again, so it's got to be good. I didn't even see the journal sitting there. It was just there, and I didn't see it for so long. Our time with the journal is like, okay, it's been over a year or something, and now here we are, and I don't know. We
Letter of
together.
apology. I think you should put an apology letter in the book.
Okay.
One of those fruit kids out.
Well, we might as well just do it. All right.
Dear journal, I think you should write it to the world.
Should I write it to the world or to the journal? No, I'm writing it to the journal.
It's time. It's absolutely time. I'm really glad we're doing it.
Oh, shit, it's so beautiful. Okay.
You okay?
Yep,
You good?
I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Man, you're taking a lot of hot pink tape to this guy.
I know.
He deserves it.
Yeah. This is penance. Give up all your pink tape.
All right. Ready.
Because we want to.
Yeah, I remember your picture here.
I mean, do you remember?
Got her?
So you recognized her from the picture she put in the journal?
Yeah, we don't know each other. That's funny.
This is kind of an aged journal.
It
really.
is, I know. I don't think I've actually seen the end of it either since it got finished.
Yeah, well, I think that's the idea.
Yes, yeah, I
You should
remember
look
that
through
somebody
it.
did the very last page first.
It started out with a bunch of different people. And then this woman and hi baby. And she wrote and wrote and wrote all this big story about her her son got married to somebody. Yeah, there's some guys here.
Pages gonna fall out or anything?
Yeah, I was a little worried. Like the longer they live, the more falling apart they're going to be. And I remember some of the first ones I'd actually taken duct tape, and I thought, oh, well, they're going to break at the spine, so I'll just tape the spine up really nice and good. And I haven't seen one of those come back yet, but I haven't seen scans of one of those yet.
What was the number of the other one that came back?
That was 526.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of people put a lot into it, so
Return home to
it needs to go home. So what are you gonna do with it now? Are you gonna sit down and go through every page and read everything that's in there?
Well, I'm going to have to, yeah. I
I
have
would
to
hope so.
hear the story of what happened to this journal. Oh, I feel like I've got twins now. Love them the same, but they're kind of different. I mean, if you look at the handwriting, it could be sort of the same person over a long period of time doing different entries. Some of it looks fairly similar. Then there's, something completely different pasted in. More similar handwriting. These things are real. These are real people. These are personal stories. And there's something amazing about connecting people together. There's a few underlying themes that are similar in the journals. The fact that these themes carry through everyone's life, I mean, it's like we all deal with family issues, we all deal with money, we all deal with love, we all deal with the same sort of problems in our lives. A journal returning depends very heavily upon the people that actually have the journal and whether it keeps moving and whether it gets full. I think in a perfect world it would be, I sent this journal out and I didn't hear from it for 6 years, 8 years, 15 years, and then it shows up on my doorstep, mailed to me anonymously, and it's just full of stuff, and it had traveled the world, and they sort of get to do what I want to do, and that's just sort of go travel randomly and bump into people and have little adventures, and instead I sit at the computer all day long and do my work. The next step would be to actually compile some of the contributions to the journals and publish a book. And another goal is to have an exhibition of the work, allow people to show up and actually see the journals in person. And I think just allowing more people to be exposed to it is just going to do wonders for creativity and rediscovering, whatever it is that we seem to lose as we grow up as far as exploration and having fun and creating things.
Whoa, very cool.
Okay, so components. You're still married to the idea of having actual journals in the show that people can actually handle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well,
Because that's really it's the trickiest part of the whole idea. I think it really goes right to the heart of what kind of show do you want this to be. It's one of the things that most museums would never want to do, and it's really the big conflict with this kind of show is how do you preserve them but give people access to them at the same time.
Yeah.
The other key thing is how to deliver the show. Do you have the show? How many journals do you actually have right now?
Well, there have been a few that were sent back for scanning, and at least 10.
At least 10.
I would say. So
You would have to know that in the next 12 months you're going to be able to accumulate another dozen journals or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the big unknown is that
Yeah.
I think I can track them down.
Yeah. All right. So out of all 1,000 of these journals, how many do you know where they are right now?
Besides these 4?
Yeah. Besides these 4, we know where these are.
Not a whole lot. I'd have to guess that it's maybe 25, maybe 20.
And you sort of monitor these on you email people and you
I
have
get periodic updates to the website. And I mean, for example, just recently someone emailed me from Israel and said, hey, I've got this journal.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, send it back for scanning. So that pops up, and that's sort of how I locate a lot of the journals.
When you're pitching the show, you sort of want to know that you have the goods.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of need to know where these things are or how many you can have. So you need to know, where are they? This is kind of a key issue. Because the fact that we don't know where they are is kind of the cool thing about them. They're sort of out there, and that quality is what makes each of them so compelling. But it's also the very thing that could be a problem when it comes to doing something very tangible like an exhibition of the books. Can't do an exhibition without the books.
Yeah.
And the other question too is, not only are you thinking about how many different institutions they might go to, but what happens when that's over? You know, what happens to the journals long term?
You know, with the book, it's sort of the first time I've actually had to give up complete control over the project, which is a little misleading in saying that, as I've never really had complete control over the project. I've had very little control over what happens. But, you know, with regards to the actual content and how it's used, yeah, it's the first time I've had to deal with other people saying, well, we don't think this image should be in the book because of A, B, and C. The publisher, at least the marketing and the salespeople, are concerned about, you know, how are they going to sell the book to the buyers, and is the consumer going to understand as they walk by? So there's a whole business end to this that's, you know, especially with the cover.
Yeah, it's a call to action. That's a great way to put it. It's not, it doesn't speak to range. That's beautiful. That places it in a certain sensibility too.
It's just going to have to be something that grabs people's attention.
Because
if you are packaging something,
it's not a journal. It's
a
book based on the journal.
So
that's true.
I think that.
That's a,
I think that's good. And also yellow sells.
So hopefully we can find that sweet spot in between the kind of commercialism of it and also the, you know, the soul of the whole thing too.
One of the things is like, well, you know, there's all these artists out there that have these, you know, weird handles. It's like, and you've been going by some guy for 6 years. It's like, why would you change that now? The book has a lot of amazing stuff in it, but isn't, you know, you need a bunch of these books. You need a book that's that thick to sort of communicate the enormity of contributions to the project. 1,000 journals grew beyond anything that I thought it would be. But something I noticed after starting the project was that more people wanted to participate than actually could. It's a limited number of journals. They're very hard to get a hold of. And a lot of people actually had emailed me and said, okay, why don't you extend the project 1,001, 1,002, 1,000, make it 2,000, make it 3,000. So the 1001 Journals website launched, and so far 300 people, a little over 300 people have registered and launched, I think it's around 115, 120 journals so far. They invite their friends to join in on their journal or allow anyone and everyone to sign up for it. Their friends invite their friends. We'll see how it goes. With 1001, essentially whoever launches the journal is responsible for it. Starting sort of a sister site or the next generation of the project, it may very well turn out that 1,000 journals is actually the seed, and 1001 journals is the huge oak tree that grows from it. You know, this is open for the world, and whereas 1,000 journals is open for the world, there was only 1,000 of them. You know, and there's, 6 billion people on the planet. You know, it's a huge amount of people to try to reach with 1,000 journals.
Okay, so if you have one of these 1,000 journals, please don't be ashamed if it laid on your desk a while. Just please send it on. Someone is waiting for it. Just give the world a part of you. Just pass it on, please.
Yeah, that's what the journal's designed to do, so please set your journal free.
Everyone wants to see them.
I think it's time to get it rolling.